The Little Bear B4 is a nice little portable tube amplifier. There are a couple of unique features. First, it has a balanced output, although not a balanced input. And second, you can change the op amps inside this unit. You can also change the op amps in the non-balanced version, just the plain old Little Bear. In order to get to the op amps, you're going to have to take out these 4 screws at the top where the little knob is, requiring you to use a number 2 Allen key. These are very small screws, and you may have a hard time finding replacements for them if you lose one. So when you pull them out, put them in a nice, secure place so they don't roll away and hide under the couch. After I pulled out these screws, I thought I had to pull out the bottom screws as well because I wasn't able to easily slide out the PCB board. And so I went out and I got a small screwdriver to do that. Well, it turns out you don't need to take out the smaller screws at the bottom. Indeed, you can just pull out the top when the top screws are out. There's just a piece of glue that's stuck to the battery that prevents the PCB board from coming out easier. Now you can see that these are the 2 op amps. Along with the op amps are obviously the 2 tubes that are soldered to their own PCB boards. Alongside the op amps are these transducers or switchers that can change the voltage, things that I'm not particularly interested in messing around with, since that could pretty much damage not only this unit but potentially IEMs if you end up using them. The op amp that I purchased was the BURSON Audio V5i Dual. So there's 2 of them and they work in conjunction. They're specifically designed for working in conjunction. It's a small little box that has these small little units and they look very unique. They look very different from the standard op amps that come with the Little Bear B4. They are made of metal, as they should be because they're conducting electricity. And as you can see, they have 8 connectors, 8 pins, 4 on each side. Be careful when you're using your tweezers or pliers or whatever you're going to use in order to pull out the op amps. Now, the tweezers came with the op amps that I purchased from BURSON, and if your version didn't come with tweezers, don't try to do this without a pair of nice tweezers. The danger is you might damage the PCB board or the op amps if you try to use just your fingers or some other instrument. The op amps just come out with gentle application of force, pulling upwards, and pull directly upwards so you don't bend the pins inside. And as you can see, there are 8 notches, 4 on each side of each of the slots. That's how the op amps are going to sit. Now initially I thought that you could just line up the 4 pins and press them in there and that'll be the end of it. And that's exactly what I did here. It's an easy installation. Just line up 4 on each side and press in with gentle force, making sure that everything is seated nicely, properly, securely. But it later on dawned on me after I turned on the unit that I was only hearing from the right ear cup of my headphones, and it was coming in at extremely low volumes and extremely in a distorted manner. And I didn't know what was wrong. I had to take out the PCB board, I had to look at it again, and it was perplexing to me. I thought I had done something wrong, I had misplaced something, or I had short-circuited something. However, it turned out that there is an actual proper way of putting in the op amps, a way that's not actually listed anywhere in the instructions, none that I could find with regard to the Little Bear B4 or the B4X, and certainly no documentation that came with the BURSON op amps themselves. But we'll get to that in a couple of moments. One thing that I did encounter while trying to put this thing back is that little piece of 3M glue that's stuck on the battery. The issue is it's not easy to take the PCB board in and out with that little glue piece there. The reason that they have it is so that nothing flops around inside, but the tolerances are so tight that it's very unlikely that the battery is going to go flying off and hitting some other portion of this PCB board. So what I ended up doing eventually is just taking that piece of glue out and tossing it so that I could seat the PCB board in there nicely and securely. If you don't, you'll end up finding that the glue-like substance may actually warp the PCB board, not allowing you to line up the screw holes for the top end to the body of the unit itself. And if that happens, the last thing you should do is try to force the screws in. And this is where I got the idea that perhaps it's a good idea to just take that piece of glue off. And as you'll notice in just a moment, as soon as I take that glue off, it's a much easier process of taking and putting the op amps and the PCB board back inside the unit housing. While you're doing this, do also be somewhat careful about the wires from the battery to the board itself, that you're not fraying them. Now, here's the thing. I found out later that there is a proper way of putting in the op amps. There's a notch at the very top of the base there. It's a U shape. I put an arrow there so you can see what I'm talking about. The other notch is on the op amp. There is indeed a notch on the op amp if you look very, very closely. Here, I'll point it out to you. Right there. That op amp notch has to line up with the notch on the board itself, the little chip board where the op amp will sit. If you don't line up the notches when you press it back down, then you're not going to get a clean signal and you're going to get distorted sound and things are just going to mess up. You need to do that for both op amps. Well, there you go. That is the Little Bear B4X op amp change. Good luck.